got introduced to each other like a handful of weeks ago, and
Mhm.
both, executives in the Salesforce world. And, I, having spent 13 years at Salesforce, most recently Senior Vice President, Technology and Products at salesforce.org. And I'll let you talk about your own background, but I kind of didn't know what to expect when we got connected, and got on we got on the Zoom call together, and was really kind of blown away at just how much we're, interested in the same topics and sort of like on a similar path. And I think we were supposed to chat for like 20 minutes and it ended up being 70 minutes or something, that first conversation. So yeah, it's been really nice to get to know you. And I think I'm excited to kind of talk about a topic today. And
Yeah, so it's funny. So I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for going on 10 years now, and I am, co-founder of Arcus Inc., which is a Salesforce implementation partner. So we work very closely with the side of Salesforce that you worked in, and it's funny that our paths were never really connected in a way other than saying hello.
yeah,
And then here we are, you know, 10 years plus later after our journey, and we get an opportunity and we start talking about mindfulness and health and holistic life sciences, and that sparked a 70-minute conversation. And I think that both of us at the end of that realized that that conversation was great for both of our health. I think if we were to check our vitals, I think we would find that we had a really good 70 minutes of life right there, right? And
absolutely.
I think the fact that both you and I have gone on a path of self-discovery over this time frame, it has led us to a point where that conversation was possible. And we thought maybe it makes sense. Maybe we can share this out with others and see if they find it fruitful for them too.
And I think, we started to write down a list of topics. It's like a really robust list. I think there's a lot of things that you and I are both really interested in. But, in talking about where should we start? What makes sense to start? And I know there are topics that I think are particularly pertinent for the time we're finding ourselves in, right? And thinking about not only what is top of mind for us as individuals, but what we think others might want to hear about that could be useful, right? Given everything that's going on.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that from a standpoint right now, our lives have been turned upside down. There's a lot of chaos and turmoil in the world that we've been dealing with for multiple months now. There's a lot of uncertainty for the future. And I think one of the key topics that I'm sure people are kind of letting their heads kind of spin about is, well, what do I do? What are the, how do I handle this? How do I deal with this? And I think one of the biggest challenges is to say, how do I keep my sanity? How do I wake up in the morning knowing that it's kind of a Groundhog Day situation every single time you wake up? And what do I do to keep my sanity, keep my health, keep my life moving as we navigate these uncertain waters? So I think that in discussion with you, and as well as with others that I consider part of my tribe, I think one of the key things, and I think this led to the topic of today's conversation, is about discipline. I think discipline is, in my eyes, is the second component to heaven on earth. I think there's passion plus discipline equals heaven on earth. And I think discipline is more important than ever right now to navigate through challenging times. And so what I have seen, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is that I have to double down on my routines, right? Concepts of not necessarily leaving the home or being able to go to places that I exercise in or connecting with other individuals. I have to make up for it. I have to change my routine up, and it's up to me to find the willpower to make those changes and actually push forward with them. In addition, reinforce that the beneficial habits that I have in my life, like meditation, just connecting and communicating with other individuals like yourself, help strengthen my willpower, right? So there's a combination of doubling down on the things that we know we need to do on a day-to-day basis and making sure that we're still doing them to keep our sanity, but then at the same time might have to expand out on them, maybe try new things to allow ourselves to generate some new energy and just be able to make sure that at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that we have enough energy to kiss our kids and, you know, do the things that we know were part of our normal routine that might seem a little exhausting to do when the day is over.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I love this concept of, you know, discipline plus passion equals heaven on earth. I think it's really cool. And it sort of definitely resonates with me because, so part of my journey and why I've been on this journey of self-discovery, it's probably about 7 years long since, like, I hit this point of stress and burnout about 7 years ago. At the time, a sort of mom, sole breadwinner for the family, you know, moving up in my career and my profession under a tremendous amount of stress, and was just in this environment that was starting to get kind of toxic, and then hit this point of just like, I walked into my boss office and quit without a plan, right? As sole breadwinner, like, that's not good. And instead of accepting my resignation, he said, why don't you go take some time off? Which I did. And that's when I reached out to a friend and just asked for advice. You know, what should I do? And, you know, she introduced me to meditation, you know, a bunch of other things. And that's when I started to learn about these tools, and incorporate them into my life with regularity. You know, it took time to get regular. Like, I won't lie. I sort of struggle with getting consistent with meditation in the early days. And I know a lot of people do, right? But then I got to that point where I started to see the benefits of the discipline. And what's so fascinating too, and I'm sure you see this too, Larry, it's like, it's discipline, but to do something that maybe is 5 minutes. Like, you're not talking about a major life change, right? Or a major, you know, having to, you know, uncover an hour and a half in your day to, like, you know, go to do certain activities or whatever that's going to help you kind of transcend. It was literally 5 to 15 minutes was what I was doing of meditation a day. But the impact of that, of establishing that discipline and that habit has been remarkable for me. And then what I found, fast forward many years later, and the pandemic hits, and it all kind of unraveled for me too. Like, I will admit, so much of those habits and practices around meditation and healthy eating and fitness kind of dropped off because my routines got very disrupted. You know, my sleep wake routines, my gym routines, and just, you know, in addition to that, just that tendency, like what the pandemic has become for us, and the other things kind of around, you know, what's happening in 2020 is what, like, I refer to as the downward spiral. And it's really easy to get sucked into, you know, this negative place, right? Just, you know, that term doom scrolling has emerged over the past few months, of just like scrolling through your news feed and getting sucked into this place of negativity. And I had to really shift myself back into that place of discipline and getting back into my habits that I know really help and and I'm back there, right? And just like you said, it's through, you know, for me, it's through these kinds of conversations. It's through listening to podcasts. So it's through watching TED Talks. So I started to get back into all those playlists that I have been listening to, and it helps. Like, if I go off for a bike ride and listen to one of my favorite podcasters that's kind of talking about these same topics, I'm much more motivated to, you know, wake up that next morning and do my meditation practice and, you know, all those other things.
No, that's great. And, you know, I heard a couple of real key things in what you just described there. You know, one ties back to passion, right? I think when you had that moment, I had a very similar moment in the same way, but I had a moment where it was like, I was fed up, you know, where it was like, I know something doesn't seem right and I need to take action, and I had to go off that impulse. And that to me is an indication that our hearts were talking to us and saying, listen, you need to make a change. Please listen to me and go do it. Right. And so you had that reaction to go do that, to change the course, to go find your passion. Right. And I had the same exact thing. 10 plus years ago, I'm sitting with, what was considered the American dream, house, 2 kids, wife and whatever. And I was miserable. I was like, why am I feeling this way? And that sparked me to go down the path that I went. So I feel like there's always those moments that, finding your passion sometimes smacks you in the face. But we can also be proactive about it and to do the things. And it takes discipline to find it and to keep us on course, right? And that is what I heard in the second aspect of what you were talking about there, right? Which is, you started to develop the habits and you focused on the doing the things that you felt and thought were going to be beneficial for you, not trying to expect an outcome day one. You just did the thing that you needed to do. And that's so funny because I got a certification in meditation, which is awesome. Yay, what was me? And I got the opportunity to coach someone on meditation. And he is a very, high profile type person. And he told me after committing to five minutes of meditation for 50 days, after day 5, and someone who is extremely disciplined, who works 18-hour days, said, I didn't really know what discipline was because it was such a struggle to do 5 minutes. Right. Wow. And now fast forward 2 weeks into it, I get notice that he's the most focused he's ever been. So within a 2-week time frame, he went from just the goal was to do the 5 minutes to now he's more focused than he ever needs. And he is working 18 hours a day. And so you need to be on top of your game for what he does. And that focus, came from the meditation, right? He knows it. He knows that was what his hope was to be, and it just naturally came about. And so what I think, what we're dealing with, what someone who works 18-hour days is, someone who, deals with a lot of responsibility. I think it's taking that time out and creating a crawl, walk, run approach to new disciplines in life to get to where you need to be. And I'm really glad that you brought up the concept of 5 minutes is really hard to do. People need to have the mindset that that's all you need to do, right? Yeah. And that allows the mind to calm down a little bit and says, you know what? Yeah, I could do that 5 minutes. I can make it. And you commit to tomorrow, and then tomorrow you commit for the next thing, and you kind of go forward from there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's funny because I was just listening to one of my favorite podcasters. Actually, it was a different podcaster, but he was interviewing one of my favorite actors, and who was talking about that when he was struggling with establishing this sort of simple meditation practice every day, he got to the mindset of he thought about how, a shower takes a handful of minutes, right? And he would never not shower. Mm-hmm. You just take a shower every day, you brush your teeth every day. There are these things that you just do and it's a handful of minutes. So he thinks of his meditation practice as taking a shower. It's just something he has to do every day. It's Hugh Jackman. That's who it was. Who was talking about that. And he's very disciplined guy. But, and when you think about it, because I think you mentioned this person you were coaching, high profile, hardworking, had, very clearly dedicated to their profession and career. And when you think about the why behind the discipline, right? Because for me, one initially when I first kind of got into this journey, it was the why was to not suffer anymore, right? I didn't want to suffer. I was suffering. And also some of the whys were, as a mom, I was seeing that I would be, as my daughter was getting older, we would be at dinner and she might be talking, and, when she was little, she could talk and I could just think about work and she wouldn't know. Right.
Right.
Which is let's all admit, as parents, busy parents, we do this stuff.
Of
and
course.
Then she got older and then she could see it. She would just call me on it and just say, you're not here. You're not here. I would just have that dead stare,
Mm-hmm.
And she's just so good at mimicking me, doing that dead stare that anytime I do it, she'll just be like, kind of mimic me. Now she's 13, so it's like her sport
Right.
is making fun of me, and it's with love, with love. So that was another motivator. Like that was another why for me, was like, I don't want to suffer, and I want to be present for the people that matter. Like the reason I was working so hard it was because it was for my family, right? It was
Hmm.
like to support my family. So, but if I'm working so hard to support my family, but then I can't even enjoy having dinner with them, like something's wrong, right? That was
Right.
like the main driver for me on the early days. But then like as the journey went on, the and it's not just mindfulness and meditation, but other things that I've kind of layered on. It's just, my world has opened up to so much more, right? Like so much more experience. But before like getting into any of that, what's your why? Well, we talked a bit about it, but what do you think about that topic? Like understanding the kind of why behind the discipline.
I think for me, you hit the nail on the head of the trigger and what was the initial why, which was the end of suffering,
Yeah.
right? I look at this and I say, I want everyone, before there's a health problem, right? People get scares they get diagnosed with cancer, or they get diagnosed with something that's really horrible. And it just literally smacks them in the face. And the journey to heal, might be gone. Like they may not be able to do it at that point. But a lot of people, it's a really tough one. And
Yeah.
so for when I saw the suffering was going on, I had this moment. I don't want that for everyone else. I don't want people to suffer to then have a breaking point and then have all this, uh, like a long road ahead to try and find something. I think what, for me, um, the suffering triggered it, but what it opened my eyes to was um, self-awareness, right? And starting to notice subtleties in life, right? Starting to notice, like, wait a second, like I'm being told I need to be on medicine
Mm.
for the rest of my life. Why do I need that? Well, let me go explore. Okay, well, I went ahead and did this. Oh, everyone says I should meditate. Watch it. Well, let me try it. you know um you know kind of questioning what's going on, questioning the narrative that exists in the world around, whether it be health, whether it be about career, whether it be about money, whatever the case might be. It opened the door to expansion and growth. And my point here is, I don't want people to have that suffering moment. I think you and I got lucky that we were aware of a moment that was, probably painful and rough and tough, and we decided to do something about it. I think a lot of people have those and just don't act on them in a lot of ways. So I want people to act that have those moments, but I want people in the moments that, when they're not necessarily suffering, or they're just feeling like right now is a great time, right? Do a self-reflection moment, right? Look at what's causing you anxiety. Look at what's causing you pain. Do you struggle to get out of bed in the morning? Do you find yourself smiling more than you are frowning? Like, look at how your being and your energy levels and your vibrancy. And if there's something there that's not vibrant, take a look at it.
Yeah.
Do self-exploration, right? And understand that the answers will come. I had someone recently say to me something which I think is pretty profound: live into your answers,
Mm.
right? What meditation means for you and what it means for me is completely two different things, right? We have heard out there that meditation is good. I took that in. I said, I'm going to try it. That was my goal. And then trying it once led me to say, you know what? That wasn't too bad. Didn't hurt me. That was kind of cool and how I felt. I'm going to try it again. And then I kept going. And eventually it evolved into what it means to me, right? My meditation practice now is 30 minutes of Wim Hof breathing
Mm.
that I do. And then I meditate. Well, that's my thing, right? I love that. Other people do all kinds of stuff. They do mantra yoga, mantra meditation. Some people do yoga.
Mhm.
Other people do different. Other people just sit quietly and stare at something for 15 minutes. Like, whatever it means to you and whatever the benefits are for you, that's for you. And those things are positive. And that's what I want people to wake up to, is just, they need to take action. They need to identify what's hurting them, and what's not making them feel good, and take a step in the right direction. And what's beautiful is, once you do that, others notice, especially children, right?
Yeah.
That becomes thing. I've had my kids come and meditate with me, or come and do set an intention with me, or other stuff that I do that is healthy, and they're seeing the benefits at it as an early age. And I'm sure you see the same thing.
Absolutely. It was like one of my happiest moments was just it was like last week or 2 weeks ago, I walked in, my daughter sleeps in later than I do. Surprise, surprise. Being that she's 13, but I walked in to the room and she was meditating, and I was like, what? And then she's like, yeah, I meditate 10 minutes every morning. And I was, pretty shocked. And I try to definitely because I know with that age, right, if you push too much, you can get the kind of opposite
Yep.
result. So I tend to use either reverse psychology or just like modeling certain behaviors,
Mhm.
but not sort of pushing them. But was
Yep.
really happy to see that. And I do try to talk a lot about, out loud with her around, I had a moment of, I felt I was like, I just had a moment of self-awareness the other day. It was last night, in fact. Oh, I'm feeling anxious. I was just feeling that, like an anxious feeling in my body, and was just noticing it, right? And I think a lot of times when people have those feelings, they just kind of, there are a lot of ways we might deal with it. We might pick up our phones, or, put on the TV, or have a drink, or, just
Mhm.
find some way to kind of numb those feelings away. Because it's just the human condition. Let's be real. There's a
Yep.
few things that we just have to face that is our tendency, and that is to, not to run away from discomfort, and try to numb that, and also to spend way too much in our minds on the past and in the future, and not enough of that in the present moment. And I think that those are two places where being disciplined around mindfulness can really have a huge impact, and these like little minutes really add up. And yes, you can extend them over time, and you can bookend your day with different kinds of practice. I think that just bring you back into this place of being in the present moment, but also starting to hone that self-awareness. So last night when I felt that anxiety, I just went like, yeah, I'm feeling that. Oh yeah, what is it? Oh yeah, I have an interview tomorrow morning. That's why I'm feeling anxious.
Right.
It's going to be a moment of performance. And then I
Uh,
just like reminded myself, well, I'm just going to go, and I'm going to be the best me I can be. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Not a big deal,
right. Hmm.
but I could have very easily just found a way to kind of just, I self-medicate that away, or take it out on someone. You see that a lot too. When you're anxious,
Yep.
you might snap at someone. So I think so much of it is just building that sort of self-awareness, and not only to notice those negative things, but I don't know what you've experienced, but I've just experienced in these past 7 years, like these moments of, you know, it's like where every cell, in my body is like vibrating, like
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
feeling. And it's these moments in your life, and it could be anything. I could just be sitting here looking at, like, I have these view of these treetops, and the leaves, when the wind blows by, it's like they're waving at me. Like they just have this
Hmm.
like beautiful way of rustling. And there's some mornings where the sun is shining and it's bouncing off the ocean, and the leaves are like waving at me, and that I just feel this rush of just bliss,
Hmm.
in that moment. And that's all I needed, was just to be here, seeing those darn leaves that I love waving at me.
Right.
Um, and that, like, I just don't think I had those moments back then at all. And
Hmm.
now I feel like I experience this stuff all the time. And it's like, I want that for more people, right? Like,
Yep.
why we suffer so much and we work so hard, and um, but we need to be able to be in these, like, enjoy, to squeeze the essence out of life,
Yeah, absolutely. I think in a lot of what you described, I definitely feel the exact same thing. And it was the more internal I went, the more self exploration I found, the more deeper I saw in the external world too.
Yeah.
And I have a personal belief that we are connected to our environment and to people on an energetic level. And so when we start to get more in tune to that within us, it opens the door to the connection that we have to the environment. And then you start to feel a connection further there. And then you start to realize, oh, wow, like all the artificial, materialistic things and all this stuff is, oh, wow, that doesn't bring me joy. That's not making me feel happy. Like, uh, right now should be the happy moment, right?
Yeah.
Right now, being able to, hear a bird chirp or observe a flower or whatever the case might be, that can bring such joy in one moment, right? And I think that's to me, that's like levels of enlightenment and growth in ourselves that we see. And it starts with us, right? It starts with our own internal exploration, and that's not selfishness. That is
Mm-mm.
actually, how can you be a good parent if you can't treat yourself good, right? Like, how can we do those things if we're not taking care of ourselves first? And I think circling back to our original thing about discipline, I think that foundationally, the basics, a lot of people don't pay attention to, hydration, sleep, um, uh, uh, the just the mental awareness, like
Mm-hmm.
just, anxiety or the levels of their emotions, right? But like movement, sleep, and hydration are three things that you can do that don't cost a cent.
Yep.
You could do it in a pandemic, and you can feed the foundation of your body to put you in a better state so that you can handle some of the tougher things, or give you the strength to be able to go inside and maybe face some of the things that are bothering you or hurting you, whether it be about the chaos of the world today, or because you've been cooped up in the house with the same people for a long time and you're just frustrated, right? And it's like trying to understand, what is that, how can I work through it? So I think, foundationally, those things need to be taken care of first. So discipline needs to be around those things so that you can navigate and explore your passion. And it's funny,
Absolutely.
in the beginning when I said the whole formula, you said passion plus discipline um, equals heaven on earth. You actually had it reversed. You said discipline plus passion. And I think it's interesting that you said discipline first, because I think that's the most important thing. I think it takes a moment of self-awareness of where you are and look at the foundation, look at what things are first, and start to get a little disciplined, because I think your passion, until you're ready, I don't think the passion comes forward. So I think you need to start with that foundational work internally, and those discipline habits to get yourself healthy. They lead to further exploration of passion from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what I found fascinating too from my experience, and I had told you about this as well, like that over this past 7 years of this sort of journey of self-discovery and establishing these habits and really delving into mindfulness. And I did a 7-day mindfulness retreat, and I know a lot of people do those, and they're super beneficial. And I had gained a lot of insights out of that experience. But all along, as I'm sort of developing this sort of internal world, right? And to your point around, what might seem like selfishness, is how, so all along as I'm building in this rich internal world, I was, I experienced success professionally, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
in ways I never expected that I would. My capabilities in the professional realm just be multiplied, in
Right.
ways like I never like imagined. The kinds
Yep.
of roles I ended up taking and being successful in, and the kinds of relationships I've been
Mm-hmm.
able to have and foster, I did not have in my life. Like the kinds of love I've been able to attract, love I've been able to give, wasn't capable of. Right. So the benefits, I think, are multifaceted
Right.
and cover kind of all realms, and I think all go hand in hand. I think you can, like, I have friends who like white knuckle it, right? And just like through life, and
Yep.
they are successful and they accomplish a lot, um, etc. But you can see it. You can see it's the tension, right? You can see it. They're white knuckling it, and they're maybe not, and they're like it's like working to a time, oh, if I can just get to this place, and if I can just get to this amount of professional success or this amount of money, then I can relax, right?
Right.
Like that myth, I think, of American society, right? We were just like work, 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 and then we can retire. And then what?
Right.
Like then what do you do?
Yeah.
And I just chose a different way, which is I believe I can, get like enjoy my day and get pleasure and out of the things that I do in my day and the connection I have with other people in my day and my professional pursuits at the same
Hmm.
time, all kind of like woven together. And that I've
Yep.
definitely, it's like, that's been during the pandemic, my life, which I know I wouldn't have been able to do it had I not already had, established all these disciplines and these habits.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny you're saying that because there's been countless studies and experiences from researchers and doctors and whatnot who have, see people on their deathbeds, and you hear a lot of the stories of they change transformationally, right? They become very spiritual in moment, which is awesome and probably a topic for another conversation here.
Yeah.
But you hear regret of things and forgiveness. So, like you just said, like no one sits there and says, "I wish I spent more money or made more money or I went after that promotion." It's about, I wish I spent more time with my kids. I wish I didn't hold this grudge. Matter of fact, a lot of people will forgive individuals for things that have been done and say, you know what, I forgive that person now, and they say I'm sorry, and whatnot. It's all a sign of that. It's the moments, the connections with yourself and your environment that matter most, that bring you the most enthusiasm and happiness and good feelings. Money is just a piece of paper, and at the end of the day, the universe gives you what you need, not what you want, right? So when I look at that and I say, if you don't love yourself, the universe is going to teach you that lesson that you need to start loving yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be searching for it on the outside, and it's going to keep smacking you in the face and not give it to you, right? So until you wake up and see that, and see the constant goal of us to evolve as individuals and have our experience through life in the way we are intended to, the universe is going to give you what you need at that moment and what you need to learn. And when you decide to wake up and explore it, I think things accelerate tenfold, right? Because now, something that might have been a lesson learned after 10 years, now all of a sudden you have a moment of self-awareness. Now you're more self-aware. Now you're starting to see things intra-moment, like maybe I don't want to react this way, or maybe I should, go do this tomorrow because it feels good. All of a sudden you start to find you're around people that you want to be around more. Yeah. You smile more, you're laughing more, you're connecting with new people, you're getting new opportunities. Heck, you might even become a gazillionaire without even realizing it. It's like the mind has amazing power. Tied with the heart, I think you can create amazing things very, very quickly, and find abundance.
Yeah.
So
That's such an interesting topic in and of itself, because I think so much of it is like, I know so much of it can be kind of counterintuitive, right? In that sense. And then coming from the world we come from, that is like very driven, and very results oriented, it can often feel like a choice, like you have to choose, but it doesn't have to be a choice, and often, and that's where the counterintuitive piece comes in. Like if you work too hard to achieve a goal, you often don't achieve it because, it's like the wrong kind of effort, right? As opposed to, living in this more of a place of abundance, of really experiencing every moment in that moment, and still having a vision. Because, it's interesting, I think, and you've probably seen this when you think about mindfulness practice and meditation, and especially when you look at like Buddhism and other, some of the sort of religions that really employ mindfulness and meditation in their, as a practice, people can ask, like, if I'm so focused on the present moment, like, well, what about the future? How do I set goals and achieve goals? Right. So any
Yeah.
thoughts about that? Because I know, we come from those worlds and
Yeah, it's funny you're saying that because I thought that exact same question about a month ago because I would see all of these high end achievers and you come to hear stories sometimes about how they're miserable or that they deprive their children hate them or whatever the case might be. And I thought about that and I was like, your your heart and passion is not lazy, like passion and love motivate you,
yeah,
and as I just said about someone who are coaching, they're working 18-hour days every day. So the thought of that for me sounds god awful, like 18-hour days. I need to get X amount of sleep.
yeah,
When I got the kids, I got all this. How could I do this? And his message was, I'm more focused than ever, and I'm loving every second of all of this. It's 18 hours a day, and I'm like, oh my god, it's because of passion, right? And the passion that you have doesn't have a time clock. Doesn't mean you have to work at it 8 hours a day. It's about just experiencing what you need to experience. And I think what you have to trust is that if you listen to your heart will tell you what you need to do. And if that means planning today, then you plan today, right? You got to listen to what your heart says to do. And a great example of that was I would go on vacation. I went on vacation last week. I would normally go on vacation and try to keep the discipline of my regiment. So the only thing I allowed myself not to do was work out for the week. I was like, well, I need to rest for the week.
mm-hmm.
I gave up everything, including my supplements and all the things that I did. And I didn't have any issues mentally because some of those supplements helped me with ADHD that I have and stuff like that. I didn't do exercises. I didn't meditate. I didn't do any of those things. I just enjoyed the environment that I was in. And I walked away and I felt amazing. And it was great. And I made that choice. I didn't need to do that for that week. And then when I came back, I went through, cleaned up the stuff that I needed to do, and I went on and I felt like a better person. I felt like my experience that week was great. I didn't really pay attention to work stuff at all. I barely looked at my phone, and my iPhone told me screen time was really low. So I have proof. And that's it. Like, I think people always want the answers of how to get to somewhere. And I think they have to realize that exploration and learning is a process. It's an ever evolving process. And intuitively, you're just going to know what to do. Right. And a matter of fact, if we always follow the same path that everyone else does, we would keep getting the same results.
Yeah.
Right. So what we need to do is find it for ourselves, listen, learn, and make it good for yourself. So me working 18-hour days is probably not a thing for me based on my life situation right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if that turned into something else, I don't know, maybe. Right. But passion drives you, your disciplines keep you on task.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're doing both, I think that's where you find it. And you just naturally do what's work. You take the garbage out without thinking about it. But if you're miserable at your life, taking the garbage out stinks. You actually hate it. You might throw something at it. Heck, you might even hoard it, right? I mean, this is what we see sometimes in the world, right? People get so depressed that they can't even do small things anymore, right? So the more passion you have, the other stuff you just kind of do. You don't think about it, and it doesn't really take much energy to do. So I think to kind of circle back to your point, I think you got to listen to your heart. You got to listen to your gut. And when you find passion, that motivates you and that keeps you going, but you can't lose sight of discipline because you can get distracted.
Yeah.
That's why it's so critical. It's like passion's going to give you the energy, but where you use that energy matters. You're still going to get there, but if you work on the discipline things that are good, your foundational stuff, your mindfulness practices, your hydration, your sleep, your foods, all of these things, that will then catapult you to a place where you stay on track and you'll get to where you want to go faster, probably.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And it's getting me thinking, because one of the things I think about a lot, like what I think about for both myself and then the people I look to coach and like to coach are folks that want to, right now we talk a lot about 2020 being a massive reset, right?
Mhm.
Just like whether we like it or not. And maybe the way things aren't the way things should be. Maybe we
Mhm.
weren't, on a good course collectively, as a, as as humanity. So I want to be a part of imagining a better future, right? I want to be out there in 10, 20, 30 years. You think 30 years back and think about how different things were, right?
Yep.
And then, so what about 30 years forward? And so being in a place of being able to kind of project out into that unknown time frame and imagine a future that is, feels right. Like everyone, what that means to each of us individually is going to be different. And then what might I do now that might help either me or us or whatever get to that, to go in that direction, right? So that's what I think about. And what I think about are what are the like, how do you create the environment that's conducive to that kind of
Mhm.
activity, right? And that mindset. So what are the disciplines that I need to, and then my coachees need to establish and maintain, and
Right.
because so much of it is the disciplines, and it's around managing energy, and
Mhm.
it's my right, because you talk about sleep. I'm super into sleep, and I know how much sleep I need
Yep.
to feel good, so I try to always go to bed so I can wake up naturally without an alarm, and with the adequate amount, um, and so what do I need to do to manage my energy so when I wake up I'm feeling it, like energized and
Yeah.
ready to just um, squeeze all the goodness out of my day. And then two is mindset. And there are a lot of, you need to be in this positive, generative, creative, innovative mindset if you're going to be out
Mhm.
30 years in the future and
Yep.
creating something that doesn't exist. So how do you, what disciplines do you establish to be in that kind of mindset? And so for me, it's like, yeah, I think about a lot of things of, like, I know, for example, um, I need to limit the amount of time I look at news. I need to limit the amount of time I'm on social media, because I know these things are not conducive to that kind of mindset. They have usually quite the opposite effect.
Right.
And it's not that I don't look at the news, and it's not that I don't look at social media, but I limit it, and I have enough self-awareness to see when it becomes just like, because sometimes I'll do it, just scroll, and it's tunnel vision, and I can feel it, and I feel it like I'm just tunnel vision, like,
Yeah.
and then it just starts to build up the anxiety and the fear and the negativity, and it rarely happens anymore, but it happens. And do you think about like mindset and disciplines for managing that?
Yeah. Everything that I heard you talk about, kind of goes back to a concept of balance. Um, I think we always have to find our balance, and what that means for us, right? Whenever we go too far off onto the spectrum, it typically doesn't give us the best results. And the further you keep going, eventually something's going to happen that's going to bring you back in balance, because that's how the universe works, right? So I look at and listen to, Buddha said life is suffering, right? And what is the path? It's the middle path. And what I think he was meaning by that, and it took me a really long time to get my head wrapped around it in some ways, was a balanced life, right? So the moment that you attach to something too much, it takes you into negative town,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what we need to do is realize that we need to listen to our bodies. We need to listen to our hearts, right? Our mind is not a great master. It's a great servant, right? So we have to listen to our heart and know that there's a soul inside of us that is our director, right? And our soul needs for us to manifest whatever it is we're going to manifest, needs the tools to be optimal, right? And so what I look at it is, if I'm not optimal, I can't do and achieve what I wanted to achieve. I can't be my best self, right? The four agreements: always do your best, right? Well, for me
Mm-hmm.
to do my best, I know I need to attempt to do whatever it is, with a healthy tank of gas, and and the machine needs to be running at top shape. So I always try to keep in mind, you know, making sure that I'm drinking enough water, making sure that I prioritize sleep, making sure I prioritize trying to eat as healthy as I possibly can. And also making sure, and I think this is critical right now, and maybe one of the disciplines that needs to be done, connection, right?
Mm,
When we're not able to be and hug each other, when we're not able to see facial expressions in real time, in real life, it's doing something to us, right? So we need to connect. We need to communicate in any which way we can and feel that connection with people. And I know you probably felt it. I mean, I felt it on our call, and this is through a Zoom conversation, right? That makes me feel good, right? That gives me energy,
mhm.
right? So we need to always make sure that we're connecting to the outside environment in some way, shape, or form, even if sometimes it's artificially done, like through Zoom calls and stuff. And I find that as long as I connect externally with people who are, really kind of serving me, I like to call it those of the tribe. Um, and I'm keeping myself balanced from a physical perspective and doing my best same from a mental. So the mental space is about meditation and all that stuff. My body, I'm doing exercise, I do yoga, I do all that type of stuff. My food and water keep it all flowing together, right? And then from there, I kind of go explore, right?
Yeah.
So that's my kind of, I guess, foundational disciplines that I try to keep, and I always come back to those at a bare minimum, and then I like to explore and see other things and what they mean to me,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, it's a really good point. And I do think that, um, some of us do, even in the pandemic and in shelter in place, have, we have people that we're with, right? That we're sheltering with. And I know for me personally, I've just tried to be mindful of, um, you know, we need to, like, for my daughter, right? She normally is with her friends, and they are very, touchy. They're hugging, and they're like,
Mhm.
practically on top of each other all the time. And I know she doesn't like have that right now in her life, and I'm probably not, I'm not her friend, but I'm her mom, and
Right.
and I'm definitely mindful of the fact that I don't want to like overdo it, but knowing that um, these things matter. Like maybe it's just a touch on the shoulder, or a willingness to just like sit there and let her show me the things she's doing on her iPad, or um
Right.
you know catching myself in, because we have a tendency as adults, it's like, oh, I'm going to get this and this done today, and maybe sometimes it's time to throw that away and just be there for the people that you're with,
Hmm.
knowing that we're all kind of missing out on an element of our lives that fuels us and energizes us. And so, being aware of that and then helping each other through this, I think, is something that we can also do, right? Just through that self-awareness and realizing how important it is, right, for each of us, and how we feel. But, like you were saying, it's like when we've been meeting and talking and just getting in this place of flow, right, in the
Hmm.
conversation, and I like turn off my computer and like I'm energized, like like that. And it's a gift, right? Like it's a gift that we've been able to give each other in that conversation, and that's like,
Right.
I want to bring that to other people too, like people in my life, um and how to create these moments of where, you know uh you could just both, you can come out of it just feeling better, just feeling good, and feeling
Right.
that connection, and feeling that energy, and then and how to just be more of that for more people in the world right now, because I think that's something we all need. It's like
Mhm.
medicine we all need right now.
Right. It's funny you're saying what you just said, because you just basically described an answer to your question before, right? You said, how do you, as an achiever, how do you know it's too much, or how to, like you just said, you felt it,
Yeah.
that you needed to stop the to-do list to do something else, right? And that's self-awareness, right? And the same thing goes for you know realizing that after you close the laptop, that you feel really good, having a moment to say, wow, that really felt good, I want more of that, and then go ahead and go do it,
Yeah.
right? So I think, I'm going to say and narrow my statement of what is the discipline. Self-awareness is the number one discipline that you need to learn front and center. And meditation, I personally feel, is a way to enable that practice and that skill that's innate in all of us to manifest itself. And it really doesn't take much time or effort to do. To start to get there, because what ends up happening is you just start to see what feels good, right? And that's what it is, and you even further, because people might, I could hear a critic say, yeah, but I love to eat McDonald's cheeseburgers. And I would say, I too love to eat McDonald's cheeseburgers, but I can tell you 25 minutes after I eat a McDonald's cheeseburger, I feel like absolute garbage. I have zero energy. I don't feel right. I'm irritable, downright angry, potentially. And I don't eat a lot of McDonald's cheeseburgers, but I used to back in the day. But I know at the times that we've, kind of looked at those types of things and GMOs and things of that nature, they taste good, and they have, marketing departments and scientists that are trying to make that work. So the difference between your heart and your body, they will tell you what is serving you and what is not, because certain things might feel good, right? And we get caught in addictions and stuff because certain things might feel good, but what in the moment, but they're very short-lived. They're not vibrance. There's no vibrancy to it. There's just an excitement that's more mental than anything else. And I think what you described is, through self-awareness, you can differentiate between the quick dopamine releases that are not serving us and are hurting us down the stream, to also seeing the things that are energizing us and giving us energy and excitement. And that leads to, I think, change in the world, because when you start doing more things that you're energized about, and you're giving more love because you love yourself more, and you're doing things that you love, you are now giving that energy transfer to whomever you touch, right? And even through a Zoom call, because we just said both of us feel, when we shut the laptops, we felt energized. So it can even happen through technology, which is awesome, but in person as well too, as we know what that is. And I think that's the key to change, is that it all starts with ourselves and our self-awareness, and why do we feel the way we feel, and look to uncover the stuff that is hurting us, right? The anxieties, the frustrations, the fears, angers, all those things. Look at them, see what there are, maybe have some knowledge about them as you explore them, and then use that knowledge to kind of change behavior, change mindset. And then that's going to go tenfold out into the world and have that ripple effect downstream. And that's where we see, really impactful change, whether it be for the environment. I think right now, I think I think the world kind of said, you need to take a pause, and they slapped us in the face. And whatever you believe about this, and whatever is your own opinions, but at the end of the day, there's no doubt that the environment went in a better direction by us stop flying, and us all being in our houses, and the stop of mass production of a lot of things because people aren't there to work to do those things. There's a lot of good that came out of it. So I think once we have those moments, we can use it as a learning lesson, and then catapult to better changes that are passionate and filled with love and joy, and that will promote change and not be about who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I'm so with you on there. It's like one of the activities I've adopted over, the past 6 or 8 months, when, I was just ready to kind of, the environmental concerns were something that were top of mind for me. But also just like, that was like the real driver for me. And then looking at my life and my lifestyle choices I was making, and just like, wait, are these aligned with like what I say I care about? I don't think they are, so I've been looking at everything in my life and just slowly sort of tweaking things, or maybe making big wholesale changes. But it's been great. And one of the things I started doing was just biking. As I had looked, I normally was in the city, and this was pre-pandemic. And I looked at how much money I was spending on Lyft and Uber a month, and it was ridiculous. It was so much. And I thought I took public transportation. Like, if you had asked me how I commuted to the office, Bart, I take public transportation. And then I looked at how much money I was spending on ride shares, and I was like, no, I take cars everywhere. And so I started to use the city bikes to get around, because at the time, you know, pre-pandemic, I was like meeting with people around the city. So I was doing a lot of travel in a day. And then I started biking to get around, and I was just enjoying the heck out of myself. Like, so
Hmm.
now getting from A to B didn't become this like chore and expense and impactful on the environment. It became a source of like joy. You know, I
Hmm.
listen to a podcast in one ear, and I'm
Yeah.
like pedaling through the city because like we have a nice, like lots of bike lanes, so you can like do so safely. And you know, just feeling alive. Like now I just bike any chance I can, because it's so much fun. Like I refound that activity, and it's fun because like my daughter loves to bike, so we do that together. We just get on our bikes and like bike around. We're in Maine right now, so we just like bike around with no
Hmm.
destination or goal. It's just like for fun. And that's
Right.
just one change that I adopted that, you know, it benefits me as a person and it benefits the planet. And so, but for me, it's all around that awareness and that self-awareness, like,
Yep.
oh, are these decisions I'm making in the moment, are they aligned to the things I say I care about, you know?
Right. Hmm.
And then and seeing that no, they aren't. Okay, then let's change it. No biggie.
Right.
I'm not going to shame myself. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm not going to shame other people or beat up other people. You know, like we all have to
Yeah.
kind of build up that muscle of self-awareness, and then be willing to look at it and just go, oops, okay, I'm going to shift and do things differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly, and I would say, um, you know, the key things to take out of there is, you know, the self-awareness is key, but take a chance, you know, just try it, you know, start small. I mean, I think one of the key themes that we talked about here is, you know, discipline is extremely important, but to start a discipline, it's easy, right? You just pick something that feels right, that's true to your heart, that is with the intention to do good for you, and do something, right?
Yeah.
It could be anything small. And what'll happen is more answers will come to you, right? You can live into your answers that way. And sometimes you'll find added benefits that impact others or the environment,
Yeah.
hence the bike with you. You know, the concept of me doing virtual working out was like, oh, I like going to the gym because I get to be around people and I get to connect. But I also learned now that I created a new way to connect with people, which was jogging and walking in the environment and having conversation with a friend. So that forced me to make plans that way. But then the virtual training gave me more time in my day. It also stopped me from getting in my car and actually using gas.
Yeah.
Right. So same thing, right? Impact in a positive way. I got more connection for myself. I got more time in my day. And then also too, I'm doing a little part for the environment that impacts that way too. That's a win-win across the board,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And it sounds like you had that same experience. And we just have to be aware of those things, right? And our bodies tell us it all, right? That's, I think, the end of the day, if you're not feeling good, you're angry at somebody else, take a look at yourself. Why are you angry?
Mm.
It's normally telling you a lesson. Their reality is their reality. Yours is yours. If you're angry about something, you're fighting with it. So why are you fighting with
Yeah.
it? You know, what's the reason? You know, why do you feel that way? Well, okay, write it down, explore it, see what's going on. If you let it sit for a while, I bet you'll start to see some interesting concepts that you can use to do better. And that'll make an impact in your life and with others. So,
Yeah. What I love about this, right? It's like so first off, like we're both different people, right? You live in the East Coast, I live in the West Coast. You're a guy, I'm a lady. Like, I don't like that word for whatever reason. But girl isn't appropriate either. Female, gender. You know, we kind of come from different places. We're different people. You know, maybe our whys are different, our goals are different, our passions are different. But and that is true for every single person out there, right? But the
yep,
message is the same. The, you know, underlying all of it, like what we've been talking about, the key is self-awareness. You know, the
yep,
key to kind of any kind of lasting change, is going to be self-awareness in whatever, towards whatever it is that you're working towards. And then the way to get to self-awareness, you know, one of the tools that works is mindfulness, it's meditation, and
yep,
then building discipline around that, right? Building a discipline around that practice, because it's really easy to go, oh, I don't know if I want to do it this morning. Same with working out, same with everything, right?
mhm,
But we've seen the results of just a little bit of time and discipline and just doing that on a regular basis. It just opens up a world of possibility. So that's like the gift, I think, to people listening, if they don't have that practice to,
Right.
to get going. One of the things that I hear a lot from people that are just getting introduced to meditation and mindfulness is this sense like they're doing it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, but my mind always wanders. I think there's this misconception that your mindfulness and meditation is emptying your mind, which is just not, it's not
Yeah.
humanly possible. Meditation is your mind wanders, you catch it and bring it back. And then a second later, or 10 seconds or 15 seconds later, your mind will wander, you catch it, you bring it back. That's
Right.
meditation. Your mind is going to wander, and it might wander
Yep.
in a minute. I mean, in a second, usually it's a second or 5 seconds or 10 seconds, but however long you might be able to stay focused on the present moment. It's, even I think like master enlightened, meditation gurus, it's, they're not going to be, it's still only going to be seconds probably before their mind wanders. That's the act. It's that act. It's like that's what you're building, is that skill of self-awareness. Oh, yep, wandered, come back. Oh, yeah,
Right.
wandered, come back. And so if the one message I'd like to convey is like, don't fight that. That is the work. It's like,
Right.
that is like lifting the barbell,
Right.
That is why we do it. We lift the barbell so that we can build that muscle, and so that we have that
Mhm.
muscle available to us when we want to do some other activity, right?
Yep.
Hiking or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Similarly, meditation is building that muscle so that we can have that self-awareness and go, oh, I'm feeling anxious. Huh, what's happening there? Or, oh, I'm angry. Why?
Mhm.
And if you don't build that muscle, you won't be able to have those moments of self-awareness.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And the beautiful thing about all this is you don't need to be, um, gifted with a gene or something, or be a certain type of person, man, woman, color, creed, whatever. You all have this innate ability. We all have this brain. We all have these bodies in any which way, and they're tools. And our brain is a tool, and our brain allows us to navigate and do the things we need to do. There's no manual given to us in high school or grade school, or heck, even with our parents, on how to do it. And when we start to set more expectations about what this thing needs to be, that just gives you more reason to stop doing it. If you what I look at is connection with others helps me understand what it means for me better, right? And so, as much as you just described, one thing I would add is that educate yourself, learn as much as you possibly can, but don't just take it for its word.
Yeah.
Just allow it to come in, allow it to make it your own. Because I had those same exact questions when I started meditating. Matter of fact, I got to a point where I had to put music in my ear to do it. I got very frustrated. But eventually that led to going from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes to 20 minutes, to the point of the earbuds had to come out. I didn't want music anymore. I wanted silence. I wanted to hear other things around me in my environment. And all of a sudden that practice evolved and grew to a point where I even do active imagination meditation,
Mm.
where I actually go into allow my mind to go to interesting places. And I'll tell you, as I've evolved, and it took a lot of time and effort, I've been doing it for 10 plus years, I explore myself even deeper that way.
Yeah.
So it's like the levels of self awareness that grows has been my journey, and the way I went about doing it and what felt right for me. But the same results came was I had more self awareness. And to your point, I think everyone just has to realize that everything you experience is for a reason. It's part of the process. Um, the only thing I would always suggest is don't don't lay down for too long, because you will fall asleep.
Yeah.
So
That's
sitting,
so true. Mm.
sitting is probably a thing you should definitely be doing. But stay committed. 5 minutes is not a lot at the end of the day, and it could go a long way. It really can. Like I said, the person that I taught how to meditate, within 2 weeks time, was having tremendous impact and focus. And he's in the early stages of it, and his life got more hectic, but he committed, he stayed disciplined with it, right? He
Yeah.
committed to doing it every single day. And then now, in a very high profile job, is able to stay focused, and now he can do better with that job. And once that hits, once that you have that moment that this is beneficial for you, your mind shifts. Your mind shifts from being protective
Yeah,
to I want more of it. How can I make myself better? And I think maybe just doing one discipline that's beneficial for yourself teaches your mind that it's like, oh, wait a second, you know what? Being true to myself and making myself healthy, I need to do more of it. So now the next discipline becomes easier to do. So maybe that's a topic for
absolutely.
another day.
Yeah, no, we could talk forever, I think.
Yep.
And I think just in the span of this conversation around discipline and establishing some of these like, you know, important habits, we're like scratching on so many cool topics I'd love to like delve
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
So yeah, so maybe that's it for today, and we can take a pause and then also see, you know, get this out there and see what, you know, what's resonating, what maybe is interesting to people as well, and
Mhm.
what folks might want to hear more about, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's great. So apologize for any rawness out there for those listening. I'm sure there was some distractions and sounds and stuff like that, but I think the key was staying true to what we're preaching here, right? Which is try it. We had an opportunity where we felt it made sense. We listened to our hearts. We wanted to share a message, and we did, and here it is. And we're going to keep doing it until it doesn't feel right anymore, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly. Right on. Well, it was a
All
pleasure
right.
chatting with you once again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always a pleasure. And